Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those I haven't had the opportunity to meet, my name is Doug McGee, and in my role as Warden of Convocation, I'll be chairing the proceedings of this evening. The University of Western Australia acknowledges the custodians and traditional owners of land on which any of its campuses are located. At the main campus, Crawley, the University acknowledges the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional owners of the land on which it's situated. The Whadjuk Noongar remain the spiritual and cultural custodians of their land and continue to practice their value, languages and beliefs and knowledge. It's now my pleasure to welcome you to the Autumn Ordinary Meeting for 2018. And I'd particularly like to welcome Chancellor Hon Robert French, AC, Vice-Chancellor Professor Dawn Freshwater, 2018 Guild President Megan Lee, Deputy Warden of Convocation Dr Joan Pope, OAM, Senior Deputy Vice-Chancellor Professor Simon Biggs, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Education Professor David Sadler, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Community and Engagement Professor Kent Anderson, members of the UWA Senate, members of Convocation Council, and all the members of Convocation, including their guests and friends. It's great to have you here this evening and a wonderful attendance. I now formally declare the meeting open at 6:31 and note that I have apologies from former Chancellor and former Governor Dr Ken Michael, AC, SIT WA, former Chancellor, Clinical Professor Alex Cohen, AO, SIT WA, and over 900 members of Convocation. If anyone wishes to convey additional apologies, could I ask that they please provide these to Convocation Officer Ms Juanita Perez, who will record the details. Thank you. I'll now move to item 1 of the ordinary meeting agenda, the minutes of the spring ordinary meeting, held on Friday the 15th of September 2017, which are enclosed in the agenda booklet for this meeting. Are there any amendments required for these minutes? If not, as required under item 2, can I ask someone who attended the meeting to move acceptance of the minutes? Dr Joan Pope, thank you. And someone to second? Dr Brett Davies, thank you. All in favour? Thank you, I think the ayes have it. Item 3 is business arising from the minutes. We have continued to make the agenda papers available online, and a link to the documentation was provided in the email reminder sent out earlier this week. I hope you found this useful. Q&A session. We continue to receive many positive comments regarding the Q&A session at the end of the meeting. Consequently, we have included another Q&A session in the agenda tonight. Therefore, rather than have questions after each speaker, we ask you to hold your questions until all our speakers are on stage for the Q&A session. Item 4 is correspondence. Convocation receives much correspondence on many matters, both as emails and letters, and they're largely addressed by our Convocation Officer and me as Warden. I wish to thank all members of Convocation who took the time to contact me and Convocation Council in that period, as we really value members' views on issues important to Convocation. Item 5 is elections, and it's an important time. Elections have just been conducted. To announce the outcome of the elections conducted by Convocation, where each year we hold elections for the position of Warden and Deputy Warden and 7 members. To ensure the utmost probity in the conduct of these elections during 2013, Convocation Council took the decision to outsource the conduct of these elections. This year, Convocation Council determined to continue with the appointment of Corp Vote to undertake the election process. The Convocation Officer, as returning officer, has oversight of all of these arrangements, and I therefore invite Juanita Perez to come to the stage to announce the results of the 2018 elections.
Good evening, everyone. As the Warden has indicated, this year's elections were held for the position of Warden, Deputy Warden, and 7 members of the 21-member Council of Convocation. The warden and deputy warden are elected for 1-year terms, and each member of council is elected for a 3-year term. Nominations for these positions were invited during November and December last year, and a postal ballot of all members of Convocation for whom we have postal addresses was conducted during February and March this year, closing on Tuesday, the 13th of March. The UWA statutes pertaining to Convocation require that we use a postal voting process. When the statutes are revised, we will be able to use a more efficient election process. The current warden, Dr. Doug McGee, renominated, and the position was not contested, so I am pleased to announce that he will be Warden of Convocation for 2018. Could I ask Doug to stand? Please congratulate Doug. Okay. Similarly, the position of Deputy Warden was not contested, with the current Deputy Warden, Dr. Joan Pope, OAM, renominating, so I therefore declare her elected as Deputy Warden for 2018. May I please ask Joan to stand? Congratulations. Elections for Convocation Council. Now, to the elections for Convocation Council, normally there are elections for 7 positions on council each year, as 7 councilors complete their terms. That was the case for 2018. Some councilors did not renominate and others did. In all, we had 7 nominations for the 7 positions, so I can declare them all elected unopposed for a 3-year term. The following candidates have been elected to Convocation Council. Could I ask each to stand as I call out their names? Devin Cuneo, Emeritus Professor Jenny Gregory, Mr. Graham Harmsworth, he's an apology for tonight, Dr. Raj Kurup, Mr. James Paparo, Dr. Fran Pesich, and Mr. Rick Stern. I look forward to working with all of those elected tonight. Now, this year, Convocation held an election for 1 member to Senate. 4 members of Convocation stood for that 1 position. The successful candidate is Mr. Simon Dawkins. Standing down at this election after 8 years on Senate is Ms. Hillary Silbert. She has given excellent services as senator, and we thank her for that. Also finishing his term is Mr. Kwang Lee, and we thank him for his services. Thank you.
On behalf of Convocation Council, I wish to express our thanks for the contribution of those who stood down. Paul Appleton has been on council for 16 years, a wonderful service, and contributed knowledge and commitment to the history of Convocation and its relationship with the university. To Gary Hawkes, gave excellent contributions to matters around governance and elections. Diana Silvaris was actively involved in committees, chairing and helping engagement with the university, seeking benefits for our members. Peter Robinson brought great knowledge of Convocation's history and insight to the operations of the university. Zohaib Karzai, a bit different, 23 years old. Not many 23-year-olds in the audience tonight, I'm sure, but brought youth and enthusiasm and showed that there can be real interest in the operations of Convocation Council at a young age, and we applaud that. So please join me in thanking all of these retiring councillors for their service to Convocation. And just to reiterate what Juanita remarked, congratulations to Simon on his election, and many thanks to Hillary and Kwang for great service to Convocation and the university. So your applause for them too, please. We now come to item 6, the Vice-Chancellor's report. I have much pleasure in inviting Professor Dawn Freshwater, and Dawn is tonight accompanied by recent appointments to the Executive, Senior Deputy Vice-Chancellor Professor Simon Briggs. Please stand, Simon, so everyone can recognise and get to know you. And Deputy Vice-Chancellor Education, Professor David Sadler. Welcome both Simon and David. Dawn also will take questions in the Q&A later. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Doug, and good evening. And can I start by also acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Whadjuk people of the proud Noongar Nation, and to acknowledge their resilience. I would also, of course, like to acknowledge that we have many distinguished guests in the room this evening. I'd like to welcome the Chancellor, the Honourable Robert French, and also to note congratulations to you, Doug, on your re-election, and to the Deputy Warden, Joan Pope, here. I'd also myself like to welcome members of Senate and to congratulate Simon Dawkins on his election to Senate, and to thank personally Hillary and Kwong for their enormous contributions to the Senate in guiding us through recent years. We also, as you've just heard, have members of the University Executive with us. In fact, there's quite a lineup here tonight. There's the new SDVC, you'll have a chance to chat to him afterwards, and the new Deputy Vice-Chancellor Education, both foreshadowed in the convocation report that you've received prior to tonight's event. And of course, Kent Anderson, who's with us here also. So I'm not going to talk through the report that you have, of course. I'm going to take that as read as usual. It's quite a fulsome report. As always, by the time you get the report, quite a few things have moved on, and there's a significant amount of work going on in the university, as always. In fact, the first 3 months of this year have been really light speed in many ways, and I'll talk a little bit about that. What I did want to do is just a little bit of a summary of some of the things that have been going on. So, of course, you'll know that we had our new Chancellor installed on the 1st of February. It was a fantastic event, very well attended, and a great celebration. But we've welcomed numerous members of new staff since then, and some of them you've heard about, but actually also since then we've appointed our new Pro-Vice-Chancellor Education, Dr. Peter Dean, who joined us from ANU, and we've also appointed our new Director of Campus Management, Trevor Humphreys, and that's important because that actually brings together the whole layer of staff that are working now with our Executive Director, Corporate Services. So we're really up to a full complement with our new Chief Finance Officer and our new Chief Digital Officer. So it's, again, a very exciting time for that team coming together. One of the things I did want to point out to you is that we've been working considerably behind the scenes to develop a summer school at UWA, and I mentioned this last year in one of my reports, and I want to report positively on this, that we had 1,300 students who took part in that summer school, despite the fact that it was quite late by the time that we were able to advertise, and we look forward to a growing number next summer. And of course, we really revitalised much of our education units that were on offer during the summer, and so it's been a wonderful exercise for the university as well as for those students. Some of you may know, and it's if you look at your report, when you read the term Welcome Estival, it really is meant to say Welcome Festival. Just checking that you've all read it. Our students enjoyed an enhanced orientation this year. So let me just wind back a little bit. Last year you heard me talk about the fact that we were focused on 4 key educational initiatives in the university. This was really about addressing teaching quality, the student experience, a sense of belonging, and a whole range of other indicators that we're working on. One of them was to enhance the orientation experience. And I'm delighted to say, and we've brought some handouts for you if you're interested to look at this, that we achieved a really significant step change in our what has been an orientation program we've been running since 2000, to my knowledge, and probably before. And In terms of what we did, we had a flag ceremony for every international student country that was represented. We had the Octagon open and provided information sessions for parents, and over 300 parents attended those sessions. We also conducted a procession, and I'm delighted to say that we're looking at how Convocation can be involved in this, having run this one pilot this year, how Convocation can be more involved in this as we learn from that experience, and it was a very well received experience. For those of you that managed to attend part of or have been involved on the periphery of the Perth Festival, you'll know that UWA was a founder of the Perth Festival, and this year we were able to attract 450,000 people either to events in the city or to the Somerville or to the Writers' Week. So many of those experiences that people have been having on campus, of course, raise the profile of the university and activate the campus in different ways. And so that was an absolute pleasure to see that we've gone up actually from 400,000 last year, and a great outcome for all of those involved. So I really just wanted to spend a bit of time talking about this year's priorities. Last year, I focused with the executive and the university teams on reputation, culture, and education, all with a view to moving us towards the development of our strategic vision and the strategic vision for 2030. And I'll just remind you that we do already have a strategic vision and a strategic plan. It runs until 2020. But obviously we don't wait until 2020 to revitalise and reshape that plan and that vision. And so we're starting the process now. It'll be a process that runs for about 12 to 15 months, and we're focusing on a 10-year horizon with a view that we want to look at the mega trends in our sector and of course in society, and then to come back to having endorsed by Senate the strategic plan for 2025. So that's a very quick summary of the process that we're about to embark on. And I thought it might be just useful to say a few words about this in the context of Convocation. So I probably won't spend much time on why we're doing this now, except to say, as I've already said, it's important to start a process well in advance, but it's more important than ever, in my view, because we have a really challenging and changing external economic, social and political environment. And that includes some of the changes to the higher education sector reform and funding, but it also, of course, as you know, refers to the ways in which the sector is being disrupted and the ways in which society in general is being disrupted through the development of digitalization and technology, and those advances leading to challenges around the future of work. For us, that's really important, of course, because so much of what we do is around focusing on future employment. So standing still, as you will understand, is not an option, and you'll know, because I've spoken to this forum many times about this, that we are already well prepared through going through the transformation agenda that we have done over the last 2 to 3 years, and we're now at the very exciting inflection point where we start to develop the strategy for the future and building on that transformation that we've already conducted. And so we will be asking ourselves, and have already been asking ourselves, questions that are being asked of the sector. So how predictable is our business environment in the future? Well, it was once quite predictable. We could model the number of students, we could scenario plan the type of workforce that we'd require, and we could think about the infrastructure in a way to support that. But actually the business environment is less and less predictable, not just for this sector, for many sectors. We have to take account of that. How malleable is our environment, specifically to our sector? Well, within that really large societal transformation that's going on, we also have to take account of 168 pieces of legislation and regulation that we're bound by. And so when we're thinking about the development of our strategy in the future, we are tied to those parameters somewhat, quite rightly so, because when you think about TEXA, they assure the quality of our courses and the professional accreditation of our course, it's important that we still meet those standards and competencies. And also, one of the questions we're asking ourselves is how in concert are we with societal needs and societal demands and preparing our students for that future. So the challenges that we're facing, and you know about these very quickly, are will universities matter in 2030? So it's okay thinking about the vision for 2030, but will universities matter? And of course they will matter. The question is how and in what way, and in what meaningful way can we continue to contribute to improving lives, sustainability, changing society, driving the economy. We are engines of the economy. I'm not sure if you're aware, for example, that 80% of the current economic growth in this nation has been through investment in R&D. So much of our contribution is to that greater economy. So asking questions about how we will matter, how will we have to adapt in order to really face into the future. So it sounds quite daunting, but actually it's very exciting, because when we take a step back and begin to look at the future, one of the things that we need to remind our students of is that they need to imagine the future and then create it. And of course, that's one of the things that we're also doing for ourselves. There is a process, and the reason I raise this with you tonight at Convocation is because clearly we're going to engage with all of our stakeholders in this process, and that's one of the good reasons for having a process that runs over a period of time and starting early. And when I talk about stakeholders, I'm not just thinking about students, very important. We're going to hear from Megan, the president, later around what's happening in the student world, not just around the academic staff and not just around our industry partners, all very important, and government. But of course, other stakeholders, Convocation will be involved in that, and we're setting up a whole range of opportunities for engagement, as we did through our transformation agenda in 2016, where we set up an opportunity for people to submit their thoughts, their papers, their ideas, and we ran focus groups and we ran a whole process. We will, of course, receive ideas, thoughts, and submissions from Convocation, and they'll be considered in the same way that all other submissions will be. And they'll be contributing to the whole thinking that the executive's doing. Of course, it is the executive in the end that pull the strategy together for presentation to the Senate, which will happen next March. So we're working on the basis that in 12 months' time we'll be presenting that new strategy and the new vision and the additional resources and how we might need to invest and what we might need to do differently to Senate at that point. So that's all I'd like to say about the strategic vision at the moment. It's very early. We only met with Senate to go through this process 2 weeks ago. So hot off the press, and we're still working on the green papers that will be circulated and start to form part of this consultation. I do want to update you on one or two other things, and of course it's very difficult to not know some of the concerns that are being raised nationally around safety on campus and internationally, because of course much of what's happened in this nation around safety on campuses of higher education came from the work that was drawn out of the USA related to the hunting ground, and we have, through Universities Australia, generated our own action plans and activities, protocols as a result of responding to those agendas. But it is a continued issue for us. We're keeping it live, and what's really, I think, best practice in terms of how we manage this going forward refers to the way we collaborate and consult with others. Now, I know that the Chancellor has a particular way of thinking about best practice, so I'm not going to focus on that. We've had this debate, and I agree with him. What does it mean, best practice? But the reality is that we're really trying to make sure that our colleges and the Student Guild and the stakeholders that we're working with come together to create a holistic approach to managing safety on campus for all involved. It is, of course, for students, but it's for all involved. So this continues to be work that's done collaboratively with the student body, and we're looking at a whole range of initiatives that we've put in place, and we're testing them out, and of course we're taking feedback on them as we implement them and as they're developed. We have new improved capture and reporting systems. What you might expect to see with any new improved capturing and reporting system is an increase in the number of incidents reported. That is one of the things that we would expect, and of course might be an indication that our systems are improved. There's been a huge amount of government activity in the last 3 months. Many of you will have seen that on the 22nd of December, which was not the best of timing, some universities had even closed at that point. We have 1 day left to work. We received a diktat from the federal minister around the way in which they were going to make changes to the funding regime, and particularly changes to the funding regime that were not necessarily requiring legislative changes, but were able to go through Parliament. And so that's still being pushed through Parliament, but there are some significant challenges. And for this university, it relates to the way in which our courses are structured, because we have funding through our through government funding through our CSP places that goes all the way through to our Cycle 2 and Masters program. So you can imagine that when David arrived, and he's not been here very long, he's picked up quite an agenda already of how to address some of those challenges that we face in response to government reform, whilst enhancing our existing course structure and really maximising its potential for the future. And if he were here, I'm sure he would say he believes it is the right model and it can be enhanced, and the right model for the future. There's been many other engagement activities with government, much more positive ones. So only last week we were having a Science Meets Parliament event where many of our researchers spent time talking to the ministers around their research and how it's changing lives and improving society. And of course, we're engaging, in fact, Minister McTiernan was down in Albany today because she was down there with the wave energy facility that we have opened down there as a result of government funding. And so lots of great work going on, a new group of academics working on an agricultural facility that's going to be supported by the state as well. So I won't go into detail in all of those because some of that is in the report, but happy again to take questions when we have the Q&A session. And thank you for your attention. I look forward to hearing the rest of the reports and to engaging with Patrick's presentation.
Thanks very much, Dawn. I think the importance of this meeting and the status with which it's held by the university is very much shown by the attendance of the senior executive this evening, and we thank them very much for that. Now come to item 7 on the agenda, the Guild President's Report. And I have much pleasure in inviting the current Guild President, Ms. Megan Lee, to present her first report to Convocation.
Thank you, Doug, and good evening, everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Whadjuk Noongar people, and I acknowledge that this land was stolen and never ceded. As I'm sure many of you know, but just to indulge myself a little bit here, the Guild is the peak representative body for students at UWA and has been around since 1911 at the formation of the university and Convocation. I'm Megan Lee, the 105th UWA Student Guild President. I'm a first-year law student and a proud member of Convocation myself after completing my undergraduate here in political science. Now, if I have terrible luck with clickers, so we'll see how we go. Fantastic. So our vision is to provide UWA students with the best possible student experience throughout their degree and to be the leading student-run organisation internationally. We are benchmarked as one of the best in the country, so we're now aiming for an international standard. Our mission uniquely outlined in our statute, is to foster all that tenders to the advancement of learning and the ennoblement of life. No small feat. This is achieved through our amazing student representatives and the staff who put in so much effort towards ensuring that students leave UWA with more than just a degree. Second is to provide means of social interaction between students at the university through our student departments and over 187 student-run clubs and societies, who last year ran over 1,200 events for students in 2017. Also to provide, conduct, facilitate or manage educational, cultural, sporting, welfare, and commercial facilities or activities for the direct or indirect benefit for students at the university. We run nearly all of the commercial outlets on campus, and with a new $1.7 million upgrade to the refectory, which will ensure that students have healthy, affordable meal options across a wide taste of foods and drinks. And through our professional and independent welfare services provided through Student Assist, we can help support students as well. And finally, to further the common interests of students at the university, the key highlights of which I will be discussing today. So I will take my report as read, but I will flesh out some of our key things. But in case you missed it, our functions are student representation, with the Guild President alone sitting on 45 different university committees, opportunities to get involved through clubs, Guild volunteering, and the student representative departments, food and drink on campus with incredible discounts on campus and around town through Guild membership, which is free, student support services through our Student Assist and Autonomous Representative departments, and information and advice. We're the one-stop shop for students no matter what their query is, whether it's how to make more friends on campus or, whoops, I've slept through my exam, what do I do? We're here to help them no matter what the problem is. So this is what student representation looks like today. This is my predecessor, Nevin. Some of you may have heard from him last year. He has also now been re-elected to council as an ordinary Guild councillor. We have a number of new departments and collectives, notably the Access Department for students with lived experience of disability and mental health conditions, as well as facilitate a number of faculty societies, as you can see. We are legally recognised as the conduit between the university and students at every level, from small university committees through to the UWA Senate. So myself and Peter Watson, the Postgraduate Student Association President, are the two student representatives on the UWA Senate, which is very unique, as many other student union or student guild presidents are not as fortunate to have that opportunity. And so here's the exciting stuff. So this is some of the things that the student representatives have been working on so far this year. May I remind you, our terms do finish on the 1st of December, so there's still a long way to go. So the Welfare Department, headed up by Phoebe Ho, have launched a number of new initiatives, including the International Student Welfare Packages that contain essential information for students for where to get academic support through to sexual health and mental wellbeing into these incredible packs. The packs are also in English and in Mandarin to ensure that students are definitely receiving and understanding all the information that they need to know. The Access Department has developed a campus accessibility app in collaboration with Guild Volunteering and a club called Coders for Causes that shows students all the accessible routes around campus, which buildings have what level of accessibility, and where all the resource rooms around campus are. They also ran an accessible club carnival for students who struggle to participate in the regular club carnival because of the large crowds, the loud music, and the crowded spaces. In the education space, we've been working hard to ensure that notice for students sitting supplementary exams went from 3 days to 2 weeks. We've also introduced a trial of the class rep system, which is also in place at other universities like Leeds and Auckland, which each unit has a rep that relays constructive feedback back to the unit coordinator, ensuring timely and effective feedback, but also empowering students to engage in their education. We also have been working with the university to undo an exam timetable change that saw 8:30 and 4:30 p.m. 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. exams, which were, aside from being wildly unpopular, pose some safety risks for students in the later, darker winter months. And also in the national space, we just released the start of our campaign against the MIAFO proposed funding changes, as well as some of the proposed legislative changes that will see changes to the HECS repayment threshold that will disadvantage students and dissuade students from seeking a higher education. In our residential student spaces, we've launched a food pantry for college students to ensure that their bellies are full when they're strapped for cash, and revitalise the Fresher Festival, which creates a better sense of college camaraderie. And on a more serious note, we've been working on the Safety on Campus Action Plan and ensuring that the University and the Guild are fulfilling the recommendations that came out of the Human Rights Commission report into sexual assault and harassment on campus. I've also been working closely with the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Education, Professor David Sadler, to develop a new education strategy to ensure an engaging university experience. This includes ensuring that we have impeccable and interactive digital support and a smart campus that allows students to tailor their learning spaces to what they require. Hopefully this will ensure that students are engaging meaningfully and effectively when they have face-to-face time with their academics. And just to wrap up, here is a picture because I thought it was quite impressive. It's the 87th year of Prosh. And with our highest number of students participating in the past 5 years that I've been at university, it's incredible to see. So these are all the students that for Winner Sleep In on Wednesday this week to hand out and sell our paper to raise money for 4 amazing charities. Outside, if you didn't already see, we have one of the Prosh directors selling some of the papers and raising money. So please dig deep and donate either tonight or online at prosh.com.au. And finally, here we go. The partnership, which was mentioned in both myself and the Vice-Chancellor's reports in your booklets, but just to build upon that, this year I have been working with members of the University Executive to ensure that we have a University Guild Action Plan for 2018, which includes a number of the things that I mentioned before, but also a big focus on the principles of governance, communication and consultation between the student body and the university to ensure that we are indeed working in partnership for this year. And also alumni. So for those of you who were members of Guild Council or involved in Guild Council, please do get in touch with us so that we can keep you up to date with what the students are doing and invite you to our Guild Council reunions. You can get in touch with us by email at alumni@guild.uwa.edu.au. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
And it's about the student experience, and you can only be impressed when you know that our students are being led by such impressive young people as Megan and every other Guild president we've seen up here in recent years. Megan, fantastic. We wish you very well, and certainly from Convocation, we very much enjoy working with you and continuing to do so. Megan will participate in the Q&A later in the evening, so please hold questions for then. Item 8 on the agenda is the Warden's report, and a full copy of that's in the booklet. I'll certainly take that as read because I would like just to highlight a few particular items. The roles of Convocation are set in statute, and they really are appropriate and remain. The interpretation and operation of them is a challenge for Convocation and for the university all the time, as Dawn pointed out so beautifully. It's a challenging time, there is a lot of change, and Convocation must be there. So our aim is to fulfil the roles and to support the university and the Vice-Chancellor. The statute changes, you're aware that the changes in the Act came through last year, and my predecessor Warren Kerr was very prominent in shepherding Convocation's importance through that. So Convocation is certainly an ongoing and strong part of the university. Currently the statutes are being reviewed, and the statutes will largely determine how Convocation is described and what it does and so on. We have a subcommittee working with the University Secretary. The point is that all statutes that currently exist will be collapsed into a single statute. That does not mean that the coverage will disappear, and Convocation will indeed be prominent. There won't be regulations about Convocation because of the way the Act was framed. That can't happen. As I noted, our current roles are appropriate. Certainly our chair of that subcommittee, Susan King, is adamant that things will be simpler, and she's doing a wonderful job there. It's difficult to interact with everyone about something like statute changes, but we will make sure they are prominent on our website, and that does require that there's a bit of work for everyone to get to the website and have a look, but that certainly will be covered. And as I said, thanks very much to Susan for chairing that. Graduations. In terms of the student experience, I and a few of the other councillors have just had the pleasure of enjoying participation in 12 graduations, the March graduations for 2018, and they're a wonderful occasion. Do make the point though that in many cases, that's the first real contact that the students, then graduates, have with Convocation as they leave the university. It's appropriate because they then become members, but it's important that they are aware of it. The introductory speeches to Convocation by both the Chancellor and the Vice-Chancellor are absolutely excellent, and we're very well positioned that in that situation. We welcome and encourage at the graduation the bringing together and sharing of stories, because there are so many wonderful stories, and goodness knows how many wonderful stories are there sitting out there tonight, that all of you have stories of your student time and your achievements subsequently to tell, and we're not good enough at telling those, and I think the university can indeed do better in that regard, and that's important to everyone, so we can offer more. There's a challenge to contact and support, and I'll come back to that a little later. Also recently we had Convocation Day, another initiative of Warren Kerr, and a good one, because it says let's appreciate that Convocation has been around since 1913, a bit further ago than that. It's been around a long time, and so Convocation and the university have a very long and strong history. So Convocation Day was introduced to say, let's recognise the day that Convocation first met, and we can do that in partnership with the Guild. And it's been a great pleasure in recent years to see the Guild President planting a tree within the grounds of the university, and last year it was Dawn planting with Nevin, and this year Kent came along and planted the tree with Megan. And this year I think is a wonderful step, because we've been promised an avenue of trees alongside Saw Promenade and James Oval that could be named Convocation Walk. And the reason for the map on the side of that slide is if you go to the map of the university and look for something that recognises Convocation, there is nothing. So that would be a first. The Owen Street building, which was moved to the grounds many, many years ago and is recognised by a plaque, is not actually named after Convocation. So if we are to know and associate with the students as they go through and graduate into Convocation, then it's important that we develop that sense of place. And so I had a bit of a Wally moment, I think you might say, and where's Wally? Where's Convocation on the university? But we can recognise past successes and contribution in many ways in that situation. The Masonic Hall, you'll remember at the meeting last year, we noted that we had made a contribution to Masonic Hall. It doesn't quite look like that yet, but it's getting there. It's important because it's the western entry to the university, so it's a prominent location, and Convocation will be prominent within in terms of the naming rights of the boardroom at the Masonic Hall known as the Innovation Quarter, IQX. So that's really good, and I think there will be opportunities for Convocation to do prominent things there in the future alongside the university. And just recently we had a meeting with the executive, and it was very good in terms of it was a call to arms for Convocation. Things we're doing well. We're doing really well with things like awards for faculty and postgraduate students. We are active in recognition of honours, but WA is not doing all that well in terms of its recognition of its people who deserve honours. Where better would recommendations for things like that come from than a group like this? A group who know wonderful people who have done wonderful things, and the chance is there to elevate the status of both the university and the state, as we should do. Engagement. It's well and truly recognised. We have wonderful engagement with the older cohort, and I think it's fantastic to see you all here. But there are younger people here as well, and that's fantastic. The challenge is for us to engage with the young. For that to happen, it's an access issue. So it's being seen, doing, working with them, helping them. And I note the prominence on campus. I've already introduced that with Wally, but your friends, your families, your children and so on are probably also university graduates. They're certainly involved in business or enterprise or whatever, and certainly all of us can have a role to play in enhancing what might happen to both the students in their life, in their student life, and we may be able to support the university by better presenting university graduates and their achievements after student life. So I think that's a real challenge to pull it together. Our network is enormous and very good. It can encourage volunteering, mentoring, placements, employment, and so on. And that's something for all of us. It may not be something we can do right now, but it may be that within our network, our family, or whatever, there is something that can be done, and that should be done for the university. In terms of examples of that, you guys know me by now. I've got a bit of a football background. And I've got a book called The Green Machine, which is the history of the University Football Club, and I just flicked through that the other day, and in that, a good friend of the university and Convocation and many of us, Alan Robson, said, "The Green Machine demonstrates how our alumni's friendships, forged on the football field, but forged anywhere you want, help to create and sustain social and professional networks that are part of the fabric of our state." And that's what we've got behind us as a network that is Convocation and can be seen in so many ways. And that's the challenge for us, to work with the Guild, to work with the university, to work with students, to work within ourselves, to just see how much we can do to enhance the prospects of every student who experiences this university and all of those who leave. Now, certainly, we'll have to abandon the, as Juanita noted, the postal voting and all that sort of stuff. We have to enter the 21st century very much and very quickly and do it very well. I'll leave it there just with a note. One of the great things we do each year is that we bring together those of us who have been out for 50 years. And I'm sure some of you have already had the pleasure of experiencing that 50-year graduate reunion, and others will be coming up to it in short or long terms. But this is a wonderful day each year. This year it's coming up on the 20th of October, and it's important that we have access to all the people who should be there, and we don't necessarily know where all of them are. So Joan Pope in particular is pursuing all of them, and we'd love to see that could be dangerous. We would certainly love to see all of them there to make it a wonderful occasion. We had well over 100 people at the 50th year reunion last year, and it's just wonderful to see. Held in Hackett Hall, so you almost feel at home 50 years later, and it really is something to enjoy. That's it for me. I'll be involved in the panel later on as well. We now have the Convocation Officers Report, which is required by UWA statutes, and it contains a list of graduates whose whereabouts have become unknown since our last meeting. So it's important that we try to locate and keep located colleagues and friends and so on. So there's a list sorted by faculty and year of graduation in the meeting booklet. So please examine the list, and if you have any idea of where some of them may be, please let the Convocation Officer know, and it's very important that we keep the best possible contact for all of our members. Other business. I'm aware of one other important item of other business, and it's important that Convocation and the university recognises people who have contributed solidly over great time and done wonderful things for the university. To do this, I wish to invite the re-elected Deputy Warden of Convocation, Dr. Joan Pope, to the stage. Please welcome Joan.
Good evening, everyone. Convocation Council has a small, confidential, very discreet committee. Itself has a wider, almost galactic range of people it can call on for further remarks and suggestions. All of you and all of your friends and colleagues, as Doug was saying, any of you may please make a suggestion to the Honours Committee of the Council for an Australian Honours. For those connected with the university, we may present through the right channels, which is one of our Senate members, someone we think would be an excellent choice for a Chancellor's Medal or perhaps an honorary doctorate, and so on and so on. So you have an access through us to suggest people. one of the other things that we can do ourselves is to make an award for a convocation medal itself. And it's my pleasure tonight to read something about one of you who is in the hall, I'm very glad to say. So, glasses on. Maria Carvalho, in her role as an university archivist, has been of significant assistance to many convocation projects. Over the past decade and a half, many members of council have valued her willing and rapid response to inquiries for accurate, well-sourced information. In particular, those who have volunteered to prepare for graduate reunions, university anniversaries, the U-Watch Theatre Collection, historical articles for UniView, and the ongoing gathering for a proposed Chronicle of Convocation, have benefited from her knowledge of the photographic holdings, her attention to detail, and her obliging and friendly attitude. Born in Portugal in 1960, Maria was only 2 when she migrated to Mozambique to join her father, who had migrated a year and a half previously. Soon the whole family migrated to Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, to improve their economic conditions. Maria graduated there with a Rhodesian Certificate of Education with a distinction in history in 1976 and the equivalent of Year 10 studies in Portuguese. She joined the firm of Dun & Bradstreet and became supervisor rapidly of the Hire Purchase Information section. However, by the end of 1977, due to the increasing and escalating civil war in Rhodesia, the family migrated once more, this time to Australia. She was employed in the micrographics industry, both in private and public sectors, becoming the technical control officer at the State Microfilm Bureau. And during this period, she undertook part-time studies at Murdoch University and graduated BA in 1994. When the State Microfilm Bureau was discontinued in 1996, she transferred to the State Records Office. She took up the role of archives assistant and coordinator of the government agency's microfilm program. This provided her with an excellent opportunity to expand her interest for research and preservation of history. Her delight in working with archives persuaded Maria to formalise this hands-on experience, and she went to Curtin University and graduated with a diploma in record keeping and archives in 2002. Maria continued as archives assistant at the State Records Office. In 2004, she was a finalist in the Early Careers Awards. And then in 2005, a secondment position arose at UWA. And 6 months later, to her delight and surprise, she was appointed University Archivist. Maria regarded this as a huge opportunity to preserve and help us all promote the history of UWA. She's a member of several professional associations, the Australian Society of Archivists, she's their representative to the State Records Advisory Council. She's a member of the Australasian University's Records and Archivists and associate member of the Records and Information Management Professional Australasia. She makes recommendations to the State Records Commission, and she's a member of the ASA's University Special Interest Group, UniSig, previously holding the position of convener. She's a member of the Archives Reference Group for Expert Nation, an ARC 3-year funded project which is compiling an online biographical database of Australian University World War I staff and students. The objective is to capture their involvement in the war, its impact on their lives once they return to Australia, rather than concentrating on the lads who were killed. It's a collaborative project involving the Australian War Memorial, the National Archives, and the University of Melbourne, Queensland, Adelaide, Tasmania, and Western Australia. It's very apt in this year, as in a few months' time we will all be approaching a commemoration for the centenary of the armistice. So November this year is an important date for Maria and us to work towards. Maria has been an ex officio member and a hard-working member at that on the UWA Historical Society Committee since its inception, exactly a decade ago. For the University Centenary, she contributed to several publications, created an online exhibition of archives, researched and provided a wide range of material for the designer of Luminous Night, which transformed the Crawley campus into a walk through phantasmagorical history of UWA. Her normal duties are, of course, to assist and contribute to the compilation of faculty and school histories and anniversaries and reunion, displays, exhibitions, academic research, graduate research, corporate day-to-day needs, and of course, background information on bequests to the university. Years ago, 1998 exactly, the Weekend Australian, Giles Orty had a wonderful question, a statement. The University of Western Australia boasts the loveliest campus and buildings of any Australian university. What blessed breed of people get to work in a place like that? And Maria, in the conversation, said she wanted to reply and immediately say, I'm happy to say that I am a member of that blessed breed. So I now invite you, Maria, to come up to the stage and accept a medal and a certificate of appreciation from Convocation. Please make your way up.
Well, all I can say is thank you to Convocation and the selection committee, and it truly has always been a pleasure to work at UWA. It isn't really a job for me being the archivist, it is my passion. People who know me know that that's what I live for, to make sure that the history of this wonderful university is captured, retained, and will be told for generations. So thank you, I really appreciate it.
Congratulations from all of us, Maria. Just a brief notice to advise that a function to lay a memorial plaque that recognises students and staff who gave their time and lives to fighting for future peace is planned for the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day on November the 11th this year. And our thanks are due to the UWA Historical Society for acknowledging this important day, and support coming from many other directions as well. While still in reverie, I would like to bring the meeting to a close. This is the end of my first year as Warden of Convocation, and it's very important that I thank my colleagues on Convocation Council for the support they've given over the past year. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to undertake this role of Warden. It's not without its challenges and time commitments, I might say. It does demand, but it's worth doing, and I think the breadth and depth of questions that we've had, the discussion we've had, the speakers we've heard from tonight is well and truly illustrative of just what we have here. That Convocation has a huge role to play with the university in doing some wonderful things for some great people who are graduates and for those who are coming through as students and future graduates. Now, in terms of my role, it certainly wouldn't be possible without the wonderful assistance I get from our diligent, diplomatic, hard-working Convocation officer, Juanita Perez. She's absolutely amazing and really appreciated. Certainly when you take on the role of Warden, it's very much with all plates on, and she's been making sure they've been positioned fairly squarely in the middle of my back most of the time. I also must thank various university teams who help both to organise this meeting and help Convocation function throughout the year. And they're here, they know who they are, so our thanks are deep and our appreciation is very, very real. Also wish to thank Manny Tomeo. Where's Manny gone? He can't have hidden already, but in the corner. Manny is wonderful in supporting Convocation in all its events. He provides great service. He's an MBA graduate of UWA and provides all the photography at mates rates as his contribution to Convocation, and it's wonderful. He'll be around with his camera for some time after, and I think seek him out. Before we all leave, I would ask that the the new council, members of council who are here, gather together by the Convocation banner over there. And Maria, we'd like to see you down for another picture by the banner as well. For everyone else, drinks and supper is served. It's outside. Please go and feed your hunger and quench your thirst. It's available for you out the back. Catch up with friends and colleagues, and thank you very much for attending the meeting. I declare the meeting closed at 8:37.